I stared down at the piece of white plastic in my hand with numb horror. 2 little blue lines. 2 lines meant the test was positive. I didn't even have to look at the box to know that much. I wasn't ready for this. Ryan was going to be a dad. I loved him, probably more than anyone could ever love someone, and he loved me. He was my soulmate, but neither of us were ready for this. Having a baby meant growing up. It meant more responsibilities, getting married, the whole 9 yards. I fell back onto the toilet seat and just stared at the test in my hand, almost forgetting to breathe as I clutched the test harder, as if breaking the white stick would change the test results. No, neither of us were ready for this. Ryan was pretty much still a kid at heart, going drinking almost every weekend, playing video games and the likes. He wasn't ready for all that responsibility. A baby was a tiny human being. You couldn't just leave it at home to go drinking, or spend all night playing video games when you had a baby. It needed care and constant attention. There was no way Ryan or I could handle what that meant. Finally, dropping the test in the trash bin by the sink, I washed my shaking hands and stumbled into the kitchen for a glass of water to deal with the shock. Still trying to figure out how to deal with this, for Ryan's sake as much as my own. I still did not have any clear answers. As I shuffled towards the bedroom, I was still in shock. How was I going to do this? How do you deal with something so monumental? What do you do? What do you say? My hand was shaking as I reached out and slowly opened the bedroom door. I unshed tears as Ryan was sleeping. He woke up as soon as I entered the room. He had always been such a light sleeper. He ran his hand over his face in that adorable way he sometimes did when he was tired and had trouble focusing. "Daniel, what the hell are you doing in my house, man?" Ryan asked me groggily, sleep still evident in his voice, as he tried to keep whispering to not wake the bitch sleeping next to him. I acted quickly. It was the only way. Ryan wasn't ready to have a baby with that bitch. Ryan, beautiful Ryan, was never supposed to be a family man. Crossing the short distance from the door to the bed, I lifted the knife and aimed it downwards, slashing the throats of Ryan and his bitch. Blood staining the sheets immediately as the little family ended before it ever began. It hurt me more than it did him to lose my soulmate, my one true love. It broke my heart, but it was for the best. Ryan wasn't ready to be a dad. I just knew it. I don't know why I looked up, but when I did, I saw him there. He stood against my window. His forehead rested against the glass, and his eyes were still and light, and he smiled, a lipstick red, cartoonish grin. And he just stood there, in the window. My wife was upstairs sleeping. My son was in his crib, and I couldn't move. I froze and watched him, looking past me through the glass. Oh, please, no. His smile never moved, but he put a hand up and slid it down the glass, watching me. With matted hair and yellow skin, and a face through the window. I couldn't do anything. I just stood there, frozen, feet still in the bushes I was pruning, looking into my home. He stood against my window. Beneath decorations of pink, red, and white, girls danced with their sweethearts. My sights, however, were set upon she who sat alone at one of the tables, her chocolate brown eyes scanning the crowd. Between her thumb and index finger, she twirled a pink rose. Her name was Vanessa, and she was, without a doubt, the prettiest girl in school. Not just because of her looks, but also because of her sweet, innocent disposition. From the moment I first saw her, I was love-struck, though I could never muster up the courage to tell her how I felt. At least today, I could leave her a Valentine's Day gift. "Did your date stand you up?" I asked, approaching her. "I guess," she sighed. "I don't even know who it is, only that they left this rose at my locker. It has this card tied to it that says, 'To the prettiest girl in school.'" "Ooh, sounds like you got a secret admirer," I teased, nudging her shoulder. She smiled timidly, her cheeks turning red. "Would you like some punch?" I offered, holding out one of the 2 cups. "Thank you," she said, taking it. We continued conversing, all the while watching others dance to the music that played. After about 15 minutes, Vanessa began to grow disoriented. "Hey, are you all right?" I asked as she slouched over, head in her hands. I'm not sure," she groaned. "I feel lightheaded all of a sudden." "Here," I said, helping her up. "Let's get you outside for some fresh air." Outside the gymnasium, I knelt by Vanessa as she tried to regain her composure. "I think I need to go home now," she managed to say. "I'll call my parents. I can't drive like this." "Well, how about I bring you home?" I suggested. "Are you sure?" she asked. I don't want to be a burden. I have nothing better to do, I answered, shrugging. Well, okay, she mumbled as I guided her to my car and buckled her into the passenger seat. As I started the car and pulled out of the parking lot, my heart pounded with excitement. I was looking forward to bringing the prettiest girl in school home with me. Thanks again for helping me, she slurred before her eyes fluttered closed. Anything for my favorite student, I replied. Two weeks ago, I had thrown away all of my diaries, years worth of writing. The bins had been collected. The diaries wouldn't be found. I had sold what furniture and electronics people would buy, left the money in an envelope. Everything else was boxed up. I had made the house spotless. I took my car along the coast. I wanted to drive that way one last time. I rolled down the window. The salty wind in my face felt wonderful, and I laughed in spite of myself. The laughter kept bubbling out, and I realized how light I felt, how free, for the first time in such a very long time. I stopped about halfway along the white bridge over the cove. Sitting on the rail, my laughter dried up, and the tears came. A car door slammed. A stranger came to the rail. He told me, I was once where you are now. What stopped you? I wanted to know. I made a friend. He sat with me for about an hour silently while I cried on and off. Finally he said, Come on, let's go for some coffee. And we started towards his car. I hopped down and looked at him for a moment before sliding into the passenger seat. He shut the door after me, and I realized that the interior door handle had been forcibly removed. There was a handcuff dangling from a piece of the metal frame. He grinned at me from his seat, and he reached to close the cuff over my wrist. As I thought of the suicide note I had left with my neatly boxed belongings, white blinding panic threatened to swallow me whole. Mother always warned me not to cross the street. Mother warned me about those types of things. She said bad men would kidnap me and take me away. I guess she was right, in a matter of speaking. I crossed the street one day because I was never a good child, and several men came out and picked me up, and they continued to ask me many questions. I don't know why she never wanted me to cross the street. All the men wore blue and had badges. I don't know why they put silver bracelets on Mother. I don't know why Mother attempted to bite one of them. I don't know a lot of things, I suppose. And years later, I'll never understand why she made me call her mother.